با عرض سلام. یه تیکه از صحبت آقای ترامپ زمانی که رفته بود سخنرانی کرد توی عربستان من براتون گذاشتم اینجا، البته زیرنویسش کردم، یه خودتون از زحمتشو بکشین. ایشون یه جاهایی صحبت از این میکنه که هرچی خون و خونریزی تو منطقه بوده و این اتفاقات بدی که تو منطقه افتاده همشون تقصیر ایرانه، ایران این کاری کرده. ایشون هیچ اشاره ای نمیکنه به نقش این کشورهای منطقه، عربستان، قطر، که به اصطلاح به کمک اسرائیل اینا این گروه‌های تروریستی رو درست کردن و انداختنش به جون منطقه و هدفشون ایران بودش توی سوریه، توی عراق. اصلا ایشون هیچ صحبتی راجع به اینا نمیکنه، فقط میگه که هرچی خون و خونریزی هستش اینا تقصیرشون ایرانه، ایرانی آدمای خون و خونریزی هستن. و همچنین ایشون خیلی تبریک میگه به آقای بن سلمان راجع به برج‌های خیلی قشنگی که توی عربستان درست شده و میگه که ایران خرابه ای بیش نیستش، ایران داره خراب میشه، ساختموناش داره از هم میپاشه، میریزن. و البته وقتی که ایشون داره صحبت میکنه من یک مقدار از همین برج‌های بلندی که داره ایشون راجع بهش صحبت میکنه رو کنار تصویر گذاشتم، مال همون پشت مکه است فکر میکنم، میدون ساعت هم معلومه توی اون تصاویر، شما خودتون متوجه میشین، میدونین که منظورشون از این برج‌های بلند محلهای ترتمیز چیه. من گذاشتم که خودتون با چشم ببینید. بعد خب آقای ترامپ اومده اونجا، خب مقدار بسیار زیادی همونجوری که میگه میخواد بدوشه و وقتی که میخواد بدوشی واسه که یک مقدار با مهربانی و خوشرویی صحبت میکنی و به همین دلیل ایشون اتفاقا در یک قسمت، تو این قسمتی که الان براتون گذاشتم نه، به قسمت دیگه‌اش بودش که ایشون میگفتش که امریکا بهترین کشور دنیاست. البته کشور شما هم هست، نه کشور شما هم هست، کشور امریکا و کشور شما بهترین کشورهای دنیا هستن. بله ایشون بلده دیگه. یه هواپیمایی هم دیروز بهش داده بودن، یک دو روز پیش قطری قرار بودش بدن به مجانی. بعد ایشون میگفتش که مگه من دیوونه هم نگیرم اینو؟ نه اصلا رشوه نیستین که، یعنی شما فقط شما نگاهش بکنین که مثلا معنیش یعنی این که یه کسی که بخواد رشوه‌ای بگیره بگه خب این نفر میخواد به من یه مجانی بده، برای چی من نگیرم؟ من خرم، من احمقم. دقیقاً حرف که ایشون زد، من احمقم مگه نگیرمش اینو؟ این میخواد مجانی به من بدن دیگه. یعنی شما این اگه بخواد بذاریش مثلا بغل رشوه، خب رشوه هم همینجوریه که میخواد به یه مجانی بده دیگه. نه اینا چیزی نمیخوان که، حالا البته ایشون اینجوری نگاه میکنه دیگه. و جالبش به اینه این 400 میلیون دلاری که اینا دادن بابت این هواپیما، خب نمیدونم والا این 400 میلیون دلار خب به علتش چیه؟ برای چی باید بدن این؟ خب بالاخره خب احتمالاً من مطمئنم که پول از یه جای اومده دیگه. این 400 میلیون دلار رو برای چی باستی که مثلا به یه نفری بدی؟ این میره توی بودجه دفاعی حساب میشه، تو چی حساب میشه؟ بودجه دفاعی هم داریم دیگه. مثلا شاید میتونیم بگین که اینو دارن میدن که مثلا امنیت بخرن از امریکا، یعنی میزنی زیر بودجه دفاعی، اینجوری میشه. یا اینکه میشه حسابش که مثلا برای حالا اگه مشکلی هوملسی بی خانمانی گدایی گشنگی تو شهر باشه اینا میشه بزنون حساب کرد. نمیدونم، فقط اینو اگه شما میدونین زیر کامنت برام بنویسید کجا میشه دادش. البته ایران هم خب یه مقدار خرجای بیرون منطقه داره که میگن البته از بودجه دفاعی میاد بیرون، ولی خب اینو ربط داده میشه مثلا به بی خانمانا، نمیدونم حالا برق و آب و بالاخره سیب زمینی و اینا، نمیدونم احتمالاً یه جورن دیگه. حالا اگه شما میدونید تفکیک داره بیاین زیر بنویسین. 400 میلیون دلار این هواپیما میارزیده. حالا شما این ویدیو رو نگاه بکنین و حالا من یه ویدیو دیگه بعداً راجبش درست میکنم و مفصلا صحبت خواهم کرد راجب این صحبت آقای ترامپ.
And if I didn't like him I'd get out of here so fast. You know that, don't you? He knows me well. I do. I like him a lot. I like him too much. That's why we give so much, you know? Too much. I like you too much. Great guy. They lifted sanctions on Iran in exchange for getting nothing and sent the regime tens of billions of dollars to fund terror and death all over the world. And they laughed at him. They laughed at our leader. And they're still laughing at our leader. They thought him a fool. And they made nothing but trouble ever since, including the funding of October 7th, one of the worst days ever in the history of the Middle East. Horrible day. Biden removed the Houthis from the list of foreign terrorist organizations, even while missiles and drones were being launched right here at your beautiful city of Riyadh and launched at ships if they happened to be sailing in the wrong location. The Biden administration's extreme weakness and gross incompetence derailed progress toward peace, destabilized the region, and put at risk everything we had worked so hard to build together. But in a few short months since taking office, we have achieved the swift return of American strength at home and abroad, now working with the vast majority of people in this region who seek stability and calm. Our task is to unify against the few agents of chaos and terror that are left and that are holding hostage the dreams of millions and millions of great people The biggest and most destructive of these forces is the regime in Iran, which has caused unthinkable suffering in Syria, Lebanon, Gaza, Iraq, Yemen, and beyond. There could be no sharper contrast with the path you have pursued on the Arabian Peninsula than the disaster unfolding right across in the Gulf of Iran. Think of that. They wanted to name it that. I said, they're not going to let them do that. Do you mind if I stop that? I stopped it. We're not going to let that happen. While you have been constructing the world's tallest skyscrapers in Jeddah and Dubai, Tehran's 1979 landmarks are collapsing into rubble and dust. They had it going for a little while under a much different system, but those buildings are largely falling apart, falling down, while you're building some of the world's biggest and most incredible infrastructure projects, buildings, all sorts of things you're building that nobody's ever even seen before. Iran's decades of neglect and mismanagement have left the country plagued by rolling blackouts lasting for hours a day, all the time you hear about it. While your skill has turned dry deserts into fertile farmland, Iran's leaders have managed to turn green farmland into dry deserts as their corrupt water mafia, it's called it the water mafia, causes droughts and empty riverbeds. They get rich, but they don't let the people have any of it. And then, of course, there's the key difference at the root of it all. While the Arab states have focused on becoming pillars of regional stability and world commerce, Iran's leaders have focused on stealing their people's wealth to fund terror and bloodshed abroad. Most tragic of all, they have dragged down an entire region with them. Countless lives were lost in the Iranian effort to maintain a crumbling regime in Syria. Look at what happened with Syria. In Lebanon, their Hezbollah proxies have pillaged the hopes of a nation whose capital, Beirut, was once called the Paris of the Middle East. Can you imagine? All of this misery and so much more was entirely avoidable, absolutely avoidable. And Mohammed knew that. He knew that. Smart people knew that. If only the Iranian regime had focused on building their nation up instead of tearing the region down. Yet I'm here today not merely to condemn the past chaos of Iran's leaders, but to offer them a new path and a much better path toward a far better and more hopeful future. As I've shown repeatedly, I am willing to end past conflicts and forge new partnerships for a better and more stable world, even if our differences may be very profound, which obviously they are in the case of Iran. I have never believed in having permanent enemies. I am different than a lot of people think. I don't like permanent enemies, but sometimes you need enemies to do the job, and you have to do it right. Enemies get you motivated. In fact, some of the closest friends of the United States of America are nations we fought wars against in generations past, and now they're our friends and our allies. I want to make a deal with Iran. If I can make a deal with Iran, I'll be very happy if we're going to make your region and the world a safer place. But if Iran's leadership rejects this olive branch and continues to attack their neighbors, then we will have no choice but to inflict massive, maximum pressure, drive Iranian oil exports to zero, like I did before. If you know that, they were a virtually bankrupt country because of what I did. They had no money for terror, they had no money for Hamas or Hezbollah, and take all action required to stop the regime from ever having a nuclear weapon. Iran will never have a nuclear weapon. But with that said, Iran can have a much brighter future, but will never allow America and its allies to be threatened with terrorism or nuclear attack. The choice is theirs to make. We really want them to be a successful country. We want them to be a wonderful, safe, great country, but they cannot have a nuclear weapon. This is an offer that will not last forever. The time is right now for them to choose. Right now, we don't have a lot of time to wait. Things are happening at a very fast pace. They're happening right here. They're happening at a very fast pace. So they have to make their move right now, one way or the other. Make your move. As I said in my inaugural address, my greatest hope is to be a peacemaker and to be a unifier. I don't like war.